Hello, beautiful souls. Jane Warren Campbell here. I thought I was going to bring through a channeled message today, and what actually came out was light language. And I am feeling more and more called to only bring through light language. It feels like it really is my purpose in this moment in time because it's such high frequency, and I can really feel, even comparing it to the channeling that I bring through, that the light language feels very powerful. I can feel that it's a frequency upgrade, and I think that's why it came through instead of the channeling that I thought I would be bringing through today. So it is about having a voice, the importance of us for having a voice, using discernment, and really putting the power within ourselves to use discretion that comes from our own inner knowing. So I hope you enjoy this message today. It's my great joy to bring them through, and I invite you to check out my new website and also check out my 7 days of empowerment light language package that I'm really excited about. I tell you every day it's based on I am statements, and I'll put the link below for the website that lists what each day is about. It starts with awakening the pituitary and then working with the pineal gland at the end, and many different powerful activations in between. And for now, here we are with the message that came through today. Huich katati ashiataki nahasa. Makse takashiaka hi hasana. Hishakwa atki ashiataka ashkanahatki asiki. Ushakwate asokiatiki ashina masiatiki ashiatiki asatki ashiki. Ishakwa atki ashatki ishkanahatki asiko. Isakwa atki yeshotkaino tiashiatika ashkaniatki asiki. Ushakwa atki ashataka ashkanahatki asiki asa. Utasiatiki ishataka ashkanahatki a. Ishakwa atki shana hasana. Ashiako ashya hishna 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 husatkiasha shiata 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 husakwa etako shiakwa isakai ishakwa etkiashanatke asiki hushakwa atki shanatke asiki ashahatka ashkanatke asiki hutatki ashataka ashkanatke asiki ishakwa etako shiatako 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 shiatako. And so what's coming through is I saw like this tight valve that was shut in our minds that was holding us in the old way, in the old paradigm, and holding in beliefs that think that we need to hang on tight to all of that. And also a new restriction. I know many of us from past lives and from earlier in these lifetimes, what we could call past lives. It's really all happening at one time, but it's hard to get our heads around that. And what's happening now is even a greater restriction on our voice. And I'm sure you can see that in the outer world where our voices are being restricted more and more and more. So it's like this tight rope tied around our necks to keep us from expressing even like our thoughts on something, sharing our thoughts or an opinion that is like it's getting more and more restricted that we're able to do that. It's like we're all supposed to think one thing, almost like we're all supposed to be one person. So we've moved from this idea, this concept of fashion and how we all have to look the same way, and there's a certain hairstyle that's in style right now, so we all should have that hairstyle, and there's certain things that in your home are in vogue, so we should all have those things in our home. And I feel that falling away, that changing, and at the same time it's like a new restriction that's coming in around our voices and not expressing opinions as freely as we used to. And we can see how that's clearly happening, and most of you can probably see what's behind all of that, what's underneath that. And in actuality, what is underneath that is what is actually falling away. It's what's rising up to be released. So what we were doing with the light language is actually pulling open this throat chakra so we can continue to express ourselves, and maybe even for many just begin to fully express ourselves. For myself, that's been a big part of the last few years, is really opening up to not being so shut down from my old paradigm that I grew up in and the programs that I grew up with, and really making it okay to have my voice. Of course, using your voice with discretion and with care, not just to say things that are harmful or negative for the sake of doing that, but when something is alive in you and you have that feeling in your throat like, oh man, I just need to express this, to have the freedom to do that, and to have a discussion with whoever you need to express that to, or to be able to write it out somewhere or tell it to a friend, so that you're not holding it. Because the more we hold things, this came to me the other day, the more we're carrying someone else's stuff that they've just projected onto us. I really saw it in a new way. It's like when something from someone else is projected onto us and it's not ours, we can explore, because people are mirrors. So is this really something for me to work on, or was this just a projection? And if it's just a projection, and it's so much easier to just let it go and say, oh well, you know, that's who they are, I'll just let it fly off me. We're holding it. We're carrying the frequency of it in our field. And I got that we really need to give it back in the way that we express to that person how it felt for us, in a very kind way, just to say, you know, when you said this, this is how it felt for me, and this is how it was received. And I just want you to know that, so that it's then going back to them, and they have to use their own investigation, their own exploration into whether what they said was really something that they're needing to look at in themselves, or if it was actually a truth for them. And it can be whichever it is, but you're giving it back to them to explore instead of holding it yourself. So this restricted voice is really pivotal right now for us to be walking in our truth and not carrying other people's frequencies in our field, so that we can keep our field clear and pure of who we are. So I'll bring through some more light language now about doing that, keeping our field clear and pure with our own frequency and our own truth, so that we can stand strong in our own discernment of what is good for us and what isn't, and to care for ourselves by having discernment around that, who we want to be with and who we don't. None of the old programming of, oh, this person used to be a good friend, I have to still hang out with them. If it's no longer resonating with you, you don't, because maybe you're shifting and the other person isn't, so the frequency's not a match anymore. So let's bring this through, this piece about being solidly anchored in knowing our own truth, and then being able to hold that truth with respect and honor for others at the same time. Hisakwa Koyatiki Ishkanaya Kotiaka Ashkanaha Hushiakwa Isakaya no Shiakwa Ashya Tiasha 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 Hasia Tikaya no Sikaya no Sikaya no Sikaya no Tiakawa Tiak Tikiyashi Titakaya Shoti Shoti Asia Tikishanaha Maksakaya to Shiakwa Tiki Isha Hu Tikanaya so Tiashana Wachiatikia Saki Sanatikiasha Maksei Takoshiakwa Asnia Masiatakashnia Tatia Sakatikiashanatika Asi Ushako Ia Sataka Shani Hasinatike Shotiki Asa Ushiakwa E Takoshiakwa Tia Sa Tikianana Asia Kanana Tikiashanaka E Wachiatikia sa tiashana keato tiki shakaya no takaana maksatake shiotiki sata shiataka ashkanatik eski ushako atkia shatiki ishana isakaya toshiako askana. So this time it is to just take a moment to let that light language anchor in. They're not giving me a translation because then we can receive it without any of our old programming getting in the way. When we don't know the language, then that is to say light language, then we can't latch on to anything from the past. We're just receiving it in this moment. And this is the reason they're not giving me a translation, is so that we can just receive this without any interference. And again, if it doesn't feel good for you, you can just stop listening. But for those who can feel it in your physical presence, or feel that you can connect with this message, that it's a frequency match for you, then just taking a moment to just let this move into our field. This anchoring in of a higher aspect of who we are and our true essence, our true being.